What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. Gabe, what is up, brother?
Nothing much, bro. I am hanging in there. Had a good weekend. It's nice to watch some NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
There was a little party around the corner from my street that I crashed. That was fun.
Your party crashed?
Yeah, it was my neighbors had a little party that I wasn't originally invited to. I just showed up at an opportune time. That was a good time. But man, it was a quiet weekend for me. What about you?
Pretty chill. Yeah, mine was pretty low key too. My parents are in Colorado. Anna Ruth and her family. Huh?
Vacation.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Vacation. Anna Ruth and her family have been in Boston, and they went to like Martha's Vineyard and stuff like that. So I was pretty solo this week. So we had people leaving, but also had two of my friends come in town, one from New York and one from Louisiana. So really just spent the weekend with them, just hung out, chilled Friday night, Saturday night. This is going to be a shock, or Saturday afternoon. This is going to be a shocker, crawfish boil.
Yeah, golly, dude. It's crawfish season, man.
Yeah.
Every weekend with you.
Every other weekend.
You're acting like you're from Louisiana, like down south, dirty South Louisiana. That ain't you. Come on,
my friends that do it every weekend, their mom actually is from Louisiana.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right.
Yeah, so that's why it is so.
They spice them up. Is it like runny nose level spice? Because that's what I need. I just need it like that.
Yeah,
I need it where I like do this to my face and I start feeling it on my face.
Most of the time when you finish them, your lips are throbbing and you need chapstick and your nose is running and your sinuses are clear.
No, my favorite type is like when it's so spicy, you're trying to like look for a reprieve from the crawfish itself. So you go to like the potatoes, and the potatoes are like damn near even spicier. Then the corn is the spiciest thing in the bag.
Yes.
That's what I need.
Every time. The corn, the mushrooms, they're always...
mushrooms. I've never done one with mushrooms. I've gotten the boiled eggs in there. I've had that before.
Never had that. So typically we do andouille sausage, Konica sausage, better cheddar brats, which if you've never had that in there,
awesome.
That is
unreal.
That is the star of the show. And then corn, potatoes, and he always puts asparagus, garlic, onions.
Asparagus is an interesting one.
In a can, he does it
in late, I'd imagine.
And he does it in the can. He keeps it in the can. He pokes holes in the top of the can. Does it in the can. And also this year started doing artichokes same way in the can, poking holes in the top of it. So that's a new one. I don't partake in either one of those. I'm not an asparagus or artichoke guy.
Artichoke thing I've never really understood, dude. Because you like the artichoke. Is it like the artichoke hearts or like the full artichoke?
The hearts.
Okay, never mind. I get that. You can just sort of eat that. Have you ever eaten an artichoke? Like just like someone boils an artichoke, you just sort of like just get the little it's like I don't really get the point of that.
No, it's not something I enjoy.
It's not like good to me. It's just it's like what is it? I don't know. It's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff.
No, and to me, it's not good. Like even like spinach and artichoke dip, not really.
See, chill out. Have you ever been to Houston's?
No.
And had their spinach artichoke. See, I can't have you comment on spinach artichoke dip until you've had that one right there.
It's just not big on the spinach or the artichokes.
It's good stuff.
But yeah, that was pretty much it. I didn't have too much at all going on yesterday, so it was a pretty chill weekend overall.
I'm getting to the point on weekends, like on a Friday night, if no one texts my phone to like go eat with them or hang out, like that's like the best night ever for me.
You're happy with that?
Yeah, just like sitting in my house, pouring out like a nice little glass of whiskey or bourbon after the work week's up, and just sitting and watching sports, no one hitting my line. That's beautiful to me. Like
that's your ideal.
Nothing really beats that.
I think that probably happens once you get married, and then you're just like, you know what? We should just stay home. Who cares?
Well, you're kind of like, you're not really like you don't go out all the time. Like you hang out with friends, but you're not a person who's like on a Friday night, if no one hits you up, where you're going to be mad if you don't leave the house. Get that FOMO.
Oh, I'm FOMO.
You are? You're a FOMO guy?
Oh yeah.
I used to have it.
If
that shit is extinct for me.
it's not for me. Like if everybody's hanging out and I've got something else going on and I can't be there, I'm kind of distraught. But,
I'm sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah, I've been bad on the FOMO forever. So that's pretty much it for the weekend. Sounds like we both had pretty chill, nondescript weekends.
Yeah.
I think I needed one of those. I'm sure you probably did too. So no complaints for me, but let's transition into some basketball. And we're actually going to start with Memphis Grizzlies basketball this week with a really no Memphis Tiger basketball news at all. So it was announced that GG Jackson was named second team all rookie team. Gabe, what'd you think about this?
I thought it was well deserved. And what's cool about it, he only played in 48 games, only started 18. So for him to make up the ground that was necessary to even be involved on this team, it shows you how damn good he was in the minutes that he got. And obviously it's an extended role. It's not like going into next year he's going to be able to, if he's a main part of the rotation, which I fully expect, it's not like he's going to be putting up, 15 to 20 shots a game. That's not going to be his role. Right. But I do think with a secondary group in the rotations, they'll find a way to let him get his volume. But for him to make up that much ground, only having started 18 games where a lot of these guys played 60 to 70 games, it's impressive as hell. But 15 points per game, ultimately shot around 36% from three, but the back half of the season, he was right around 40%. Thing was kind of interesting because he ends up getting second team. He was the last guy on the second team because Trace Jackson Davis had 42 total points. GG had 43 because he had more first team votes.
Yeah.
Than Trace Jackson Davis. But it does show you, man, 5 of the last 6 years, the Grizzlies have had somebody, or 5 times in the last 6 years, the Grizzlies have had somebody on the all-rookie team. And, yeah, they've had some misses in the drafts, Zaire and Jake LaRavia, David Roddy for the most part. But they have found some damn guys that can really show up and make things happen. And I think this just sort of highlights that another time around.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it is extremely impressive that he was able to pull this off because, this is not a year that he came in at all, or fans or the front office came in at all expecting him to be any kind of contributor. And to see him be, an all rookie second team guy, extremely impressive. He stepped up to the plate when he had to, like when his number was called, as the old cliche goes. Like he stepped up and he played well and well enough to be recognized as one of the best rookies in the league for their first year. So it's a very impressive feat, especially like not even considering that he was a late pick and all this other stuff, but just the fact that his age, how young he is, the potential that he came out with high school, and it just, things obviously didn't go according to plan at the collegiate level. So to see him kind of battle through that adversity, not be the, potential lottery pick that he was projected to be at one point in time, come in as a later round draft pick and do what he did is extremely impressive. And we've talked about it multiple times, like with the outlook for next year and him making this completely unexpected jump in year one. It's huge for next year, but it's also it's got to be gratifying for him to know at one point in time, 5-star prospect, didn't pan out the way he expected to collegiately, but he's showcased in his rookie year that he has the talent to be an effective player at this level.
Yeah, and sort of going back to what you said, like the timeline that he was on when he was drafted at 45, it's kind of insane to think how quick that came along. Like rookie year, we didn't expect him to be up with the Grizzlies really at all, unless there was a crazy amount of injuries. Now a bunch of injuries hit, he gets involved. But we figured, all right, two-way guy, he's going to play a bunch of G League games. We're going to get him some seasoning. He didn't look that good at South Carolina. He's got to bring along that jump shot. And not only does he get converted off the two-way, but he gets onto the damn all-rookie team his first year. Like the timeline when he got drafted at 45 was G League for 2 years, then we'll figure it out from there. Right. Now, a year into it, you're saying, oh, he's a real part of this rotation. He can be a real piece of offensive punch off the bench for a actually competing Grizzlies team. Like the timeline was so exacerbated. Like it just went so fast. And now we're talking about a guy who's going to be 20 next year.
Right.
And doing what he's doing. So I'm excited for it. Now, I with the draft, and we'll probably rediscuss, I guess, the Grizzlies pick at number 9. With the NBA draft kind of nasty the way it is this year, where do you think he would have gone? Like, and we're counting this year as if it was just a year of development. Where do you think he would have gone if he waited till this year's draft, which was supposed to be his normal draft because he reclassified? Like, where would he have gone? What, top 10, top 15, yeah. Maybe top 5?
Yeah.
Depending on the situation?
Potentially that. I mean, you have some other upcoming guys in the draft that are younger, obviously true freshman guys that have a ton of potential, but you don't necessarily know. So that's kind of along those lines of Ron Holland type player, and that's around the range that he's expected to go as a top 10 player. So I don't see any reason why GG Jackson wouldn't be in that same range.
He came in to college. His reclassification was probably one of the biggest missteps of his career.
Yeah.
Not only because he didn't do well at South Carolina and he didn't end up getting good coaching, but also that draft last year that he was drafted 45th in is one of the better ones that I can remember in my lifetime. Right. Victor Wembanyama there at the top. So it's like that was a misstep, because I even think if you just copy and paste what he did in South Carolina 2 years ago, and he did that last year and was coming into this year's draft having been that was his whole year where he struggled.
Yeah,
I still think he would have been a first-round pick.
Yeah,
because there's not enough at the top of this draft to keep you away from an upside swing like that.
Right, from potential, because there just are so many veteran 4 or 5 year guys in this draft that you kind of already know what they are. There's not that many upside youth potential swings. So I definitely could have seen him, being a later first round pick, or even top of the second, top 35 pick is still multiple spots higher than he actually went. So I guess he kind of, like we're saying, kind of took the long way around, and, maybe it was a misstep reclassifying in the college, but overall, I mean, it worked out. And it's one of those situations that we see quite often, maybe more so in football, where a younger player is called upon that has talent that may not have the seasoning yet, may not be ready, and it kills their confidence. And that could have been this case. Like he could have come in, flopped, and then it's a name you don't hear for a couple years, or he just phases out. But he stepped up to the moment.
Right.
Like you mentioned, averaged 15 points per game, shot really well down the stretch, and he stepped up. That's all you can really say about him, is he could have flopped, and he didn't. He played very well when he was called on.
Yeah, and if they didn't have him, he'd be a good pick at number 9 this year for the Grizzlies. But they do have him. Yeah. We've had a week to sort of chew on this. I to be honest with you, me personally, I don't have that many differing thoughts than I did a week ago when we talked about this. But do you, is there anything that comes to the top of your mind about that pick at number 9 for the Grizzlies?
I kind of stay in the same line of thinking. It just, I think you've got one of two ways to go here. I think you either go younger, more upside potential swing, or you go someone that can come in and you believe that can help right away from day one and be a rotational piece. And I don't really like mixing anywhere in between those two options. I don't like taking an upside, youth swing that didn't have much production. And I don't like taking, maybe a junior 22, 23-year-old that was solid but not great. Like you either take
that's kind of the Grizzlies' MO, isn't it? Right? Like when you have a junior who played good ball and they're like, well, he is who he is. We want him to help now.
Yeah. And
they've done that several times.
And I don't dislike that at all, but it doesn't need to be, he could probably help right now, but the potential is, to me, it's black and white. It's either you get someone who's an older upperclassman that what he is and he can help now, or you take the youth upside potential swing.
Right. But the upside potential swings for them, like if we're going through it, I think the biggest one would be like Ron Holland.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you both prioritize his development and GG's at the same time.
Well,
right, like that's the upside, where the upside swing just doesn't necessarily fit in their plans right this second.
No, and to me, I was talking just more youth as far as in age, not like Stephon Castle is obviously like
he's a guy, yes,
the mold for that, and that's what I mean by that. Not someone that's like, maybe he wasn't as good as we expected, but man, he could be really, really good if we coach him the right way. No, it's like, okay, Stephon Castle, even though he's a true freshman, even though he's
He
young,
can still come in and help.
He's someone that can come in and help, but you say, okay, this isn't it's either going to flame out or work. This is someone who could be a middle of the road NBA player like that. You can make an argument that that's his floor as being a solid rotational NBA player at some point in his career.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Now, I mean, my thought at number 9 are, one, if you can try to find a trade for like a trade partner who wants number 9, package it together to go find a big. One thing that got floated to me, which I don't know if this is something they're thinking about, but if let me just ask you this straight up. If number 9 and Marcus Smart were offered for Jared Allen with the Cavs, who the Cavs are probably going to put on the trade block, would you do that deal? You'd think about it. Like, you see how hard you're thinking about
Definitely.
it. Like, that tells you you'd give real thought to it.
I would say yes, because I think you're stronger in the backcourt.
Well, and because like the salaries match, if you could find a way to give Marcus Smart up to the Cavs who need some backcourt help defensively,
right?
And another ball handler alongside Donovan Mitchell, because it looks like Darius Garland's going to ask out. If you could just do Marcus Smart for Jared Allen, you'd probably say absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
But the number 9 pick's the one that gets in the way. But their salaries match.
And that's the thing. Does that number 9 pick really get in the way? Like, I understand that it sounds like you're giving up a lot because it's a top 10 lottery pick.
Right.
But this is a historically weak draft. So the number 9 pick in this draft is legitimately like a 16 to 22 pick in a normal draft.
Usually,
it's not a very high value pick in this draft.
Yeah. But I think that, one, I would think about trying to go use it as bait to go get a big.
Yeah.
Because Klingon's likely not going to fall to you. I think that Stephon Castle would be sort of in there with me, although it's kind of weird to see the talk around him. He wants to be a point guard, but it's like, brother, you can be a combo guard. You can get time on ball as well, but you're 6'5.5". Sometimes we want guys like that off ball and putting a lot more effort into their defense. So I don't know if that would get in the way. And then the other guy, I just think he's a Grizzlies guy, is Dalton Connect. I see that being a Grizzlies guy. Now with him, you walk off of Luke Kennard and you don't pay him his $14.7 million player option, but you get a cheaper option, a guy who I think can come in and help and shoot for you and be an offensive punch. But outside of that, like, I'm not excited about any prospect in particular at number 9.
No,
and then I've heard the Edey stuff. Edey at 9's way too damn high.
Yeah, I agree.
You traded down into the teens, which I don't know if that could even happen. Maybe you'd go draft a guy like Zach Edey, but I get spooked off by him. The one thing that does help a little bit with Zach Edey, and it goes back to my conversation about the Grizzlies and guys they like. Maybe not the skill set itself, like the back to the basket, big, hulking big, like maybe that's not necessarily Grizzlies skill set, but highly productive, 4-year player, high percentages, team guy, communicates a lot, seems to be just an awesome human being. Like, that fits the Grizzlies style. I just don't know if his skill set is perfect for what the Grizzlies want.
Yeah, I don't know about that one because I'm so unsure on him and just whatever he looks like at the next level. But I will say, you talked about Dalton Connect. I think if you stand at 9, I think that is starting to be the one that I lean towards the most. And I really like Stephon Castle as a player. I just think, like you said, moving off of Luke Kennard, getting out from under that player option and getting a younger, cheaper option in Dalton Connect, it just makes sense. And I just, the more and more I think about that, and the more and more you kind of see rumors swirl about this player's going to go here, this player's going to go there, Dalton Connect just makes sense. I think the only time I may have seen him mocked ahead of the Grizzlies was to the Spurs at 8, which I think that would be a great move if the Spurs decided to do that at 8. So I think that if you're staying at 9, I think that right now is my number 1 target. Would be
and I'll say this about Stephon Castle. I do like him. I think he can grow a 3-point ball. I also think that he might get drafted before the Grizzlies even have a chance to get him.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those guys that, depending on what you think about his 3-point ball blossoming or growing as his career goes along. You could have him as your second ranked prospect. You could have him as your 15th ranked prospect.
Right.
But it's all about what you think about his offensive punch. We know he can shoot from the mid range. He can get to the rim, pretty hyper athletic, really great defensive player. So those already hit. If you think that 3-point ball is going to start blossoming, you'd probably have him up there around this, top 5. If you think that he is what he is from there, you probably have him in the teens. Yeah. So he's one of those. He's a little bit of a polarizing prospect, like a lot of guys in this draft.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Gabe, I think that wraps up our Grizzlies discussion for the night. So let's transition to some Memphis football. What do you got for us there?
I have an interesting bit of news, and I go to my guy David Cobb, who's now joining the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So listen to the Gabe Coon Show 4 to 7, 1990 ESPN. But he joins Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5. And you'll be on right after this releases, 6 p.m. tomorrow. How about that? But David Cobb, CBS Sports, they had like a panel they put together for Group of 5 coaching rankings. And I found it pretty interesting. One was Liberty and Jamie Chadwell. 2 was John Summerall in year one. Coming over to Tulane. Number 3 was Jeff Traylor at UTSA. I think that's relatively fair. 4, Jeff Tedford at Fresno State. Number 5, Troy Calhoun at Air Force. And get this. You have to go all the way down to number 13 to find Ryan Silverfield on this CBS ranking. And obviously, this is a different conversation than who do you think's most likely to get into the playoff from the Group of 5. I think a lot of people have Memphis slated in as 1. But I think there is some hesitancy to really throw Ryan Silverfield into that next category of coaches. 13, I think, is a fine nod. I think David told me he had him at 19 when he originally did this. But those 2, 6 and 6, 7 and 6 years in a row definitely have hindered the view that he has nationally. And I think that's fair. Now, going into next year, another 10-win season probably puts himself into the top 10, top 5 in the Group of 5, no questions asked.
Yeah, I really do think that's fair because I think just 1 year of having success isn't enough to catapult you into the top of those rankings, especially with when you dig into all the layers from last year. It was ugly at times. It wasn't perfect. Yes, it was a 10-win season, but the more you peel back, maybe the uglier it gets. So I think it's fair because you look at other guys like Jeff Traylor, like you mentioned, he's been very successful. He's put together multiple high-level seasons, and Ryan, as of right now, is a coach that has won what you would consider successful season at this level. Now, I think, just like you said, by the end of the year, I think he could be as high as a top 4, top 5 in the conference, depending on how high Memphis is able to ascend. If they reach the heights that a lot of people are expecting them to, and this is growing more and more, seems as the weeks go on. ESPN did an article, kind of their 100 days away from college football, where they looked at some of the biggest storylines, Heisman contenders and favorites and stuff like that. And they also looked at, which G5 school had the best chance to claim that playoff spot. And Memphis was number 1 on that list. And it's their top 3 on every list that you can look at to see those kind of rankings. But a lot of them, they are number 1. So if they reach those heights, they do become, the first G5 team to make the playoff in the new college football playoff 12-team era. Then he immediately gets a massive bump from that. Doubt. Even if he was, let's get crazy and say he was able to go to Tallahassee and beat Florida State in week 3 or week 4, whatever it is. Right then, you gain so much notoriety and so much confidence from analysts and other people, journalists that look at Group of 5 or just look at college football as a whole. You go to Tallahassee and national televised game and you beat Florida State, you gain a lot of respect right there, even if you're competitive. But you go become the Group of 5 team the Group of 5 team in the 12-team playoff. Nobody else.
Sky's the limit for where you're going to be next year. You could go from 13 in these rankings to 2 if you're able to do that. Now,
agreed.
Another thing that was interesting about this coaching list is this conference, the American, some of the best group of 5 coaches, also easily some of the worst. Like in this thing, you have Tulane and John Summerall at 2, Jeff Traylor at UTSA at 3. You go down Jeff Monken, new to the AAC, at Army at 8. A little bit outside of that, you have Memphis. Then you have Alex Golish at South Florida to wrap up at number 15. So you have a bunch of really good coaching talent at the top of this conference. The bottom of this conference, I'm going to be completely honest with you, the coaching talent is quite frankly shit. It's bad, man. 65th. So there's 66 group of 5 teams. Outside of Tony Sanchez at New Mexico State, the second worst they have is Trent Dilfer at UAB. I would sort of second that. Like he's never done this before. Stan Drayton is number 63 at Temple. He'll probably get fired after this year. I mean, Charlotte, Biff Poggi, I think they're doing better with their NIL, but this was a guy who's an associate head coach, never called plays in his life, and he wears no sleeves on the damn sideline. Like this conference, it is like you get the best and worst of the college football coaching, industry, and it's kind of nuts to watch.
And it goes for teams as well. Like you have some of the best teams 100%. In the group of 5, and you have some of the worst teams, the ones you just named in Charlotte and UAB, and some of these teams are some of the worst.
And it kind of brings me back to like the additions when they were made. It's like there were better teams out there that you could have probably got to come over to the American. The App States, the Coastal Carolinas, those types of teams to come over instead of freaking Charlotte. And UAB made sense.
Yeah, UAB made sense.
But I think they just made a bad coaching hire.
Yeah.
But, I mean, man, it's nuts. It's nuts.
It's massive range of outcomes. Gabe, we've also got some commitment news.
Yeah, we do.
In the football program, and let's talk about those a little bit. We've got Rodney Dansby, linebacker from Houston Christian, and then DJ Allen, who is originally from Memphis, played at Germantown before going to Purdue, is also transferring to Memphis. These additions, let's just call it what it is out front. These additions are not Elijah Herring and Mario Anderson. No. These aren't top tier additions, but they are players that could be solid here.
They're pretty damn solid, man. Like I'll start with Rodney Dansby. He's a little bit undersized, and he played at Houston Christian. And I get like people are like, how's that going to translate to this level? 3 seasons there. 352 tackles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow, off-ball linebackers. That is a shitload of tackles over a 3-season span. But he also had 17 and a half TFLs, 6 sacks in those 3 seasons. He was an FCS All-American in 2022. He's 3-time All-Southland in the FCS. So, like, this is not like I think, when we looked at Chandler Martin last year,
that's what I was.
He kind of had similar accolades and stats when he took the step up from UT Martin to Memphis.
Yeah.
Rodney Dansby, of course, spent more time there, whereas Chandler Martin was only a sophomore. But at the same time, like the production, even at that level, we have seen can translate in a big way going into the American.
And Chandler Martin was FCS also, correct?
Yeah, UT Martin, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Not UT Martin.
Or who am I? Why am I losing it here?
Is it Chat?
Oh, it was Chat. That's what it was.
Is that right?
Sorry. Another Tennessee FCS school.
No, East Tennessee State.
East Tennessee, another Tennessee FCS school.
There we go. Yeah,
finally got there.
And I know Chandler Martin was in his first year as a contributor at East Tennessee State, so a little bit of difference there because he kind of burst on the scene immediately. But you can't say there's no precedent for it, even at this university when last year a guy that was an FCS All-American came in and is arguably the best defensive player.
Diego Brumfield came from D2 Campbellsville. And was the PBU leader last year.
Exactly.
It's not unheard of.
No, not at all. So another addition to this linebacker room. It continues to grow. It continues to get better. It is. I said it last week. I can't remember if I said it on here or on your show. Memphis's linebacker unit over the last several years has gone from question mark, solid players that maybe were lacking in the athletic upside to be huge difference makers to arguably the strongest overall unit on the team. I think that's fair.
Here's the other thing is I'm looking at this as Jordan Hankins is probably going to be a little bit more he's going to differentiate his schemes at least a little bit. He may do a 4-down, may do a 3-down, may have, 4 linebackers on the field at a time, may have 2. But like, if you have this many of a good thing, you got to try to find a way to get them on the field, right?
You use it.
And maybe at the same time. I know that's weird because we play a lot of nickel stuff these days, trying to have an extra DB on the field because we have pass-happy teams, especially in the American Athletic Conference. But when you have this many good linebackers in one room, it's like somebody either gets the shit into the stick playing time-wise, or you play all of them in some way, shape, or fashion.
To me, it's always every position group, doesn't matter about how much talent, just get the best guys on the field.
Yeah.
If you've got 3 guys that you feel like are the best guys, or 4 guys that you feel like are the best guys and they don't need to come off the field, by all means, do not bring them off the field. But if you've got 5, 6 guys that you feel like we're interchangeable there, I'm fine with that. But you don't need drop off. You don't need to put, well, we got these 3, they're really good. Then we got a second tier that I feel like we can rotate out there and they play well. No, it needs to be, if we're going to rotate guys, if we're going to play multiple linebackers, there doesn't need to be drop off. You need your best players on the field.
I mean, Chandler Herring, who do you have to fill? Or not? Chandler Martin, Elijah Herring, Matt Hudson, transfer from Harvard, and then now Rodney Dansby.
Right.
It looks like Devontae Mackey's going to miss the year for people that missed out on that news.
Yep.
He's going to have he has an injury. He's going to have to get surgically repaired, and he'll be back 2 years from now. But which stinks. I wanted to see him play this year. But like how? I mean,
also don't forget Jaden Flaker as well.
Yeah, true. But you can rotate all these guys in.
Yeah,
you can find the playing time for them. Or scheme wise, I don't think you switch up what you're normally doing to try to fit in more linebackers on the field at any given time. You just rotate these guys and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I completely agree. Don't play outside of your means at
all. Don't change the scheme completely so you have 4 linebackers or 5 linebackers on the field at a time.
No,
I don't think that's a winning scheme in this day and age, unless you're playing Navy, something like that.
Yeah,
bring them all downhill, go hammer away at that triple option. But other than that, you're just going to have to play it straight up and rotate these guys in, because you're just wondering how would it look? What would it look like with all this talent in that linebacker room? Who plays, who doesn't. But we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
Also, let's talk about DJ Allen a little bit. How do you feel about this addition?
I think he reminds me very much of an Allen that just left campus, and Jalen Allen. I think almost a exact replica of the skill set that Jalen Allen brought you. Jalen Allen can maybe cover the flat every once in a while, but he was about 6'3", 240 pounds, was the most productive edge rusher over a 2 or 3 year span. DJ Allen comes from Germantown, from Memphis, went to Purdue out of high school, didn't play over that 1 year, so it looks like he'll redshirt and come back as a redshirt freshman here.
No, he's a true freshman.
True freshman.
Yeah.
True freshman?
Yeah. Yeah, he got there in January.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it'll be a true freshman. So I mean, hell, he'll show up and just develop. I don't know if he'll make a difference this year, but based on the skill set, I'm good friends with Gene Robinson over at Germantown. He's a guy who has some pass rush moves in his repertoire, but he's 6'3", 240 pounds, like sort of right there to be that outside linebacker-esque guy.
Yeah.
And I think that he's a former 4-star. This is a guy who they will take time and try to develop and make him into a productive, nice edge rusher for them in the future.
Yeah, and over his last 2 years at Germantown, he had 31 sacks. So, like you're saying, he can get to the quarterback.
Is that good?
That's
31 sacks
solid.
in a 2 year period. I was wondering.
Yeah, 17 sacks as a senior, and recruitment came down to Purdue and Louisville. And this isn't
UCF was involved too, I think, late.
Yeah, but his final 2 that he chose between Purdue and Louisville. And this isn't like we see sometimes, this guy's coming back to Memphis. He's a bounce back. He went, Power 5 and he didn't play. So now he's coming back to Memphis. No, like I'm saying, he literally went to Purdue in January. Like he enrolled.
Early enrollee.
He was an early enrollee in January.
So it's the equivalent of getting almost a consensus 4-star to come here out of high school. That's
correct.
what it is.
Correct. I mean, but he almost even better because he went through all of spring as an early enrollee, and it's not like he's just now getting to campus over the summer. He's been in a collegiate program since January. So you're getting like a souped up true freshman who's been at the Power 5 level for 3 months. I think he got there in January. I think he entered the transfer portal like April 21st or something like that. So he got 3.5 months at a Power 5 school in the weight program, on the field, in spring practice, and now he's coming back home.
Some of these things may just be fit, but I can't ignore some of the guys they're bringing in and just this spring transfer window and what happened not but a month or two ago with Fred and the FedEx and the NIL. It's like, damn, man, some of these things are clearly convincing these guys to get to campus, even if it's not directly that, because you can't use it as an inducement, even if it's not directly Ryan or somebody on staff saying, hey, you're getting paid this, which is probably not what it is. They see the noise and they see what has happened. And you just see guys, he left for Purdue. He left the city of Memphis, even though he probably could have gone to Memphis for Purdue, 6 months ago?
Yeah.
And now he's right back after. I just don't think that's a coincidence.
No.
I'm sorry. And maybe it had to do with fit. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn for him in particular, but I don't think any of this stuff is coincidence.
No, I don't think it is either. So with DJ Allen, as I called him, a souped-up true freshman, I think we got a souped-up producer in Kenny Stubblefield. Would you not agree?
I agree.
I think he's got something cooked up for us on the other side of the break. So we are going to take a quick break. And on the other side, our souped-up producer, Kenny Stubblefield, is going to have the Hot 3 ready for us.
When I saw that Michael Cole put out a story of Adam Silver continuing his check-ins with Ja, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Draymond Green is still kicking dudes in the nards and throwing spinning back fists in the middle of games. And for some reason, Ja Morant still needs a check-in. He's yet to hurt anybody. He's taking the right steps. Shut the hell up, dude. Like, what are we doing? It is such posturing. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and it's gross. It was steep, and he was trying to make an example of him, and we didn't think he'd be able to stick to that. Lo and behold, by damn, he hasn't. Miles Bridges in the league. Draymond had an indefinite suspension away from, I don't even think it was actual suspension. Sorry, you knew exactly what button to push because I saw the article come out and I was like, what a cuck. It's unbelievable.
Adam Silver, the cuck.
Come hang out with Daniel Greer and Nathan Qualls on Grizz 901 Live. Every Tuesday night at 9:01 live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Well, I pretty much thought of him as a second rounder, an undrafted guy to begin with, being listed at 6'6" and then getting measured at 6'3.5". That's not going to help you at all. It doesn't change my NBA prospect, view on him too much because I already had, I don't want to say a low opinion on him, but a skeptical one for sure. Because David Jones can score with anybody, but what about the ball handling? What about the defensive IQ?
Someone could definitely fall in love with him. Especially he could easily find himself into a guaranteed two-way deal because of his ability to score. Just come in and kind of be lightning in a bottle type of situation. But that 6'3.5" is something I talked about last week. I didn't think he was actually going to come back and measure at 6'6" by any means. And I think it hurts him. He does have a plus wingspan, though. I guess that's a good.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Oh, we don't hear you. You're muted.
I'm muted. That's why.
You ain't muted now.
You know, I always mess this thing up right at the very beginning. I
hyped you up in the outro.
I'm sorry. You know what? I feel souped up today, man. I feel souped up today.
All right.
Yeah, man. How you boys doing? Y'all doing all right?
I'm hanging in there, brother.
Y'all ready to get to it?
Yep.
Let's do the hot 3, man. Let's get to it. Let me turn this down just a little bit. Okay. All right. A lot has been going on this week, obviously. NBA playoffs have been happening. We are now in the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. Dallas will be playing against Minnesota. Boston, after resting for the last 67 days, will be playing against who are they playing? Indiana Pacers. The Pacers. All right, so give me obviously these last few days there's been some pretty crazy game sevens, man. I give me your thoughts on what we've seen so far, and what team have you been most impressed by?
Okay, I'll get to that in a second, okay? But I think it's Timberwolves. I think most people would agree with that. But I have to say off the top of this conversation, the Eastern Conference blows, man. Yes. Every damn year. You had the damn zombie Heat make it out of it last year. You had in 2021 Trae Young make that fluky, and the Hawks make a fluky run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Indiana Pacers, are you shitting me? Come on, man. That's it should be embarrassing for the Eastern Conference. And I think that Tyrese Halliburton, Pacers, I love Pascal Siakam. The guy in 2012 wanted to be a damn Catholic priest, and he's come a long way from that. And he's won a finals, and he's into an Eastern Conference Finals again. But the Eastern Conference embarrasses itself every year. I think the Celtics were obviously the team to beat always, but the Pacers, of all teams that I thought would get there, they would have been at the bottom of the list. And of course, lo and behold, they're here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It's embarrassing, man. I'm sorry. I that's all that's my big takeaway from the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I mean the Pacers are a solid team, but they're not an Eastern Conference Finals level team. Like Tyrese Halliburton in the playoffs has really been not as impressive as I thought he would be. Pascal Siakam's been really good, and I think once again they have a really good core of solid players. But to be an Eastern Conference,
Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith are starters on that team, brother, and they've been fine. But I'm sorry, that's not the type of team that should be conference finals bound.
No, and they've got to go up against a team in the Celtics that has Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, the Celtics are loaded. They were the best team in the regular season this year, and they should, because it's the Celtics, and we've seen this before, but they should walk through, and they could almost, you would think, on paper, sleepwalk through the Pacers. They're so much better.
There's always one team in the Eastern Conference where you're like, get them in the Eastern Conference Finals. We're good there. The other team's always a damn crapshoot. And I did kind of have to highlight this too. With the Eastern Conference being the way it is, and I know some people were talking about this, isn't it embarrassing that Joel Embiid and the 76ers haven't even shown up in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah.
The freaking Pacers have done it. The Hawks have done it. And the 76ers are still begging to get to that point. That's embarrassing.
They made it once, didn't they?
No.
Against the Raptors?
No. That was the second round.
That was second round?
No, but the shot from Kawhi made you think it was the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Fair. Because it was such a big moment.
Right. Yeah, no, it is what it is. I once again, I think the Celtics will sleepwalk through that series, win easily. And I think almost you could make an argument that Wolves Nuggets series, like that was the pseudo finals. Like those may be the two best teams outside of the Celtics. Those may have been the best two teams in basketball. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit more, but honestly, I could not believe that the Nuggets gave up that lead. A team of that caliber, championship caliber, with players in Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, who are always incredible in the playoffs. Like to be up, 28 points?
Yeah.
To be up by 28 points and to blow that lead is not something that you would ever think you would see from this Nuggets team, with just how disciplined, well coached, and talented they are. It blew me away that they lost that game.
They had 21 points from the people surrounding Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray in game 7. It's not enough. He had 16 in the starting lineup and only 5 off the bench. And Michael Porter Jr. was a complete no-show this entire series. Aaron Gordon showed up for a couple games, but what the Wolves did that was so beautiful after losing 3 straight, said, okay, Nikola Jokic is going to get what he gets. Jamal Murray, let's just hope he misses shots, and if he doesn't, okay, it is what it is. Shut off the water for everyone else.
Yep.
Don't let Aaron Gordon get those back cuts. Stick to him the entire time. Michael Porter Jr. may shoot himself out of the series, and he seemed to.
Yeah.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he doesn't scare us enough. Christian Brown doesn't scare us enough. Shut off the water for everybody else. And that's what they did so beautifully. And that's why they're headed to the damn Western Conference Finals. I do like the fact, though, in these NBA playoffs, what really jumps off for me, this will be 6 straight years where we have a new champion.
Yep.
So the NBA chased that parity, the NFL-like parity for years and years and years. They have it. They legitimately have it now.
Absolutely.
Like the dynasties are so hard to keep going. You know, with the new CBA and the luxury tax aprons, you can't afford your roster to stay year after year after year like you used to. I think this is a plus for the NBA for them to be able to chase that parity and finally find that parity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it makes it so much more fun when you're saying, like a couple of years ago, we would have never imagined the Pacers being in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we would have never seen the Wolves being in the Western Conference Finals. Like it's just not something that was feasible a couple of years ago. So I'm totally with you. They finally hit on the parity. I think it makes for a much better product. I think it brings new fans in because you're not just recycling the same old storylines and the same old teams and the same old superstars. It allows new superstars to blossom because that's when the most eyes are on the product is in the playoffs. And you see all these people talking about Anthony Edwards has become the star of the playoffs. And not that he wasn't a superstar already, but the amount of eyes that are on it, just because I think of the intrigue with the playoffs now, has him into a different stratosphere. And so it's a lot of fun to watch that these teams build up from, basically nothing several years ago to being in the conference finals. And it's something that we've seen over the last several years. And it makes it, to me, as someone who's not like a diehard fan of a single team in the NBA, it makes it so much more fun to watch. That
and you question, when's the next dynasty? True dynasty are we going to see? Because we thought the Nuggets could really get it done, and I thought they had the ability. They wouldn't have gone 7 games with the Timberwolves if they weren't capable of winning a championship this year. But looking at them, we just sort of assumed, okay, yeah, they'll get through. They've been here, done that before. But here the Timberwolves get over top, and I just sort of look back to last offseason. 2 of their main bench players, main role players, Jeff Green, Bruce Brown. They weren't there this year because the luxury tax blankets and the amount of money that they would have had to pay those guys, they couldn't afford that. Yeah. So they had to let those guys walk. They would be willing to give Bruce Brown $10 million a year, but here came the Pacers, and obviously he's with the Raptors now after the Pascal Siakam trade. But here come the Pacers to give him $20 million a year. You're going to see that with championship teams every year. You'll see a lot of these role players who produce really high, production in these playoff situations. They'll get paid astronomical amounts of money by other teams, and the teams that they won championships with are just going to be caught with their pants down. Like, okay, we have to find the next version of Bruce Brown, the next version of Jeff Green. And I think that's where all the parity comes from.
Yeah, I have a question for you both about the Denver Nuggets, the Nuggets and the Wolves series. Two topics of conversation I want us to move into. Is it time to start having a conversation about Nikola Jokic? I read a tweet today that I want you guys to listen. I want to read this tweet to you. Okay. Does this change anything about Nikola Jokic and his playoffs? All right, ready? Every Nikola Jokic playoff series win opponent by seed. All right. Are you ready? This is wins. He's beat 1 2 seed. He's beat 1 4 seed. He's beat 2 6 seeds, 3 7 seeds, 2 8 seeds. He has never beaten a 50-win team in the postseason in his career. Does that change anything for you?
No.
Damn it, Kenny.
No.
Damn it. I hate this. Why do we have to? Every time a guy loses, right? If we expect him to get there and he loses, we try to tear his ass down.
I'm just saying we need to have a conversation.
We do it with Jokic. They're all-time greats. They're going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. I'm not taking shit away from him. Okay. And in that game, in Game 7, 34, 19, and 7. It's not like he was the reason they lost. It was everybody else. And it's like,
they lost.
At some point, we have to stop with these overarching generalizations, drawing conclusions. Oh, was it too early to crown Jokic? No, he's won 3 freaking MVPs. And won a championship.
Should have won 4 straight.
Yeah, exactly. He won a championship. He was this close to getting into the Western Conference Finals this season. He's averaged like in playoff history, he's like 30, 14, and 8. It's like at some point, no, it's not about Jokic. It's a team game, and that's what we're seeing with the NBA. It's very much built around the team, less around the individuals, or else the damn Lakers would be there, and the Clippers would be there, and the friggin' Suns would be there.
Yeah. Suns would definitely. The Suns have one.
We do these we rehash what we've talked about historically when one guy loses a game 7 by 8 points. It's like, holy shit. I just don't. It's mind-numbing to me. The NBA, we as an NBA talking society, we are all the biggest haters ever. Everyone just hates.
Very true. Anthony Sane on his show says it all the time. It is the only league where former players hate on the current generation of players that like incessantly. It's always that. It's unbelievable.
Shaq's up there saying, I think SGA, telling Jokic to his face, I think SGA was the real MVP.
Yeah.
Where the hell else do we do that?
Exactly.
Nowhere, man. It's nuts. It's nuts. And
So
then
no conversation. No
hell
conversation.
no. Zero conversation at all. Screw that. I'm not into it. I hate it.
All right. Another thing that's come out in Memphis today is the fact that former Grizzlies conductor, point guard, legend, part of the core 4, Mike Conley, has now made it back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since that 2000 whatever season that they made it to the Western Conference Finals with the Grizzlies. A lot of Memphis fans are like, kind of, okay, we don't like the Wolves, but we're happy for Mike Conley. But then there's been this overwhelming sense of, nah, bro, like he ain't suited up. Like, why would I cheer for him? Like, he's not suited up for the Grizzlies. Like, forget that dude. Like, where do y'all stand on that? Do you cheer for a guy like Mike Conley because of his past with Memphis?
Yeah.
And even though he's not a Memphis Grizzly now?
I think I'd cheer for him even if he wasn't a former Grizzly, just because of the style of play and how good of a guy he is. He's won the Teammate Award this year. Like, I think that our guy on Bluff City Media is sort of Anthony Sane is definitely the guy who's like, to hell with Mike. I don't. He's playing for the Timberwolves. Screw them. They're one of our rivals, and I get that. If you hold that opinion, whatever, that's fine with me. But I like Mike Conley too much as a human being to root against him, and I think it would be really cool for him to have a championship. We already saw Marc Gasol get one,
right?
So I think falling in line, seeing the core 4 win championships, I always would love to see that.
Yeah, I completely agree because it's the same way I felt about Marc Gasol when he went to the Raptors. Like, it was, for me at least, almost impossible not to root for him and not to cheer for him. And I feel the same way about Mike Conley. Like, Mike Conley is just one of those players that if you dislike or if you hate on, like, you are just being a hater to be a hater. Like, he's been so productive throughout his career. Like Gabe said, he's like such a good dude, always appeared to be a really good dude in the media and just out in the community and stuff like that. And he's like the ultimate teammate and always has been. He's never been a selfish player. He's always made players around him better and, kind of done the gritty thing. So, yeah, for me, he's one of those guys that's impossible not to cheer for.
And let me pose this, because Jokic said it after Game 7. He called Mike Conley the most underrated player in the NBA.
That's been that way. It's been that way since he was at the Grizzlies.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I think that it's been consistent throughout his career, but I think even in today, he's in his mid-30s, getting to his late 30s. I still think he is, because you watched Game 5 without him on the court. For the Timberwolves, they couldn't get anything going offensively. Right. He hits the floor. He hits the floor. He calms down everybody. Everybody can play their own role when he's on the floor, because damn well he'll play whatever role that's not being played that night. He'll always pick up the pieces for you, and he's helped the Timberwolves so damn much. And I think, like, looking back at it, like, the Lakers should have been a team that went after Mike Conley back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
They would be thriving.
Yeah.
May still be in the playoffs if he's still in the – well, Nuggets would have been hard to get past, but still, like, he is that type of player where everybody could use a Mike Conley.
Yep.
100%.
All right, Eastern Conference semifinals, the Pacers and the Knicks. You've already talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to ask you guys this. Does Tom Thibodeau deserve the critique he's getting about the way that he utilizes his roster during the year, during the playoffs? Like, just basically, I mean, this has been this way since he's been a coach, right? Even with the Bulls, with Derrick Rose. since the beginning of it, right? Like
run them into the ground.
Runs them into the ground. Is that a fair critique for him?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
I mean, in the playoffs, he kind of had to because he only had 7 healthy bodies.
Right.
But you had Bojan go down with a season-ending injury.
Right.
Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby. He ran OG Anunoby out there. It's like, who the hell checked him?
Yeah.
Before the
Did you
game?
see him in that first part of that game?
Yeah.
You sick pieces of garbage. It looked like he had I don't even know. It looked like he was holding in a dump while he's running up and down the floor.
He was squeezing it in the whole time.
I was like, damn, the poor guy. Imagine if he has to chase down and try to block somebody from behind. He's going to tear that thing off the bone, that hamstring.
Yeah.
And then Josh Hart, of course, with the ab. I don't know how you can look at how the Knicks season deteriorated and not say, hey, Tom, maybe don't play them for 45 minutes a game in the regular season, and maybe you'll be a little more healthy. Because it took away what I thought could have been a really good Eastern Conference Finals at full strength.
Yeah.
Knicks at full strength.
Knicks at full
would be a real series.
I agree.
Christian, you got anything else on that?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. Let's get to the finals real quick. Dallas will be playing against the Timberwolves. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks are such an interesting team to me because Luka has always been that guy that his talent is overwhelming on the court. Like, he's an overwhelmingly talented individual, but his style of play seems to kind of make it to where Dallas, I always thought there was a ceiling to Dallas's, potential to where they could go. But it feels like this playoff run, that some of that has been ceded over a lot to Kyrie, and obviously Dallas has really ramped up the others, if you will. I think Charles Barkley likes to call them the others, the PJ Washington, the Derek Lively's, those kinds of guys. The Derek Jones, right? The defense, yeah. But can Dallas beat the Wolves? Do you think? What are your expectations for that series?
I say no. Gabe, I think, is going to have a little bit of a differing opinion on this, but I don't think they can. And there's one caveat that I will give, and it's not Luka playing out of his mind. It's not Kyrie playing out of his mind. It's Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford playing out of their mind, because that's where you have to match Minnesota is in the front court. And I think Derek Lively was the biggest reason that they were able to close out that series against the Thunder in 6, because in that game 6 he played incredible, especially towards the end of the game.
12 points, 15 boards. He was unstoppable down low. But can he and Daniel Gafford, can they compete with Cat and Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid? Because that's the difference for the Timberwolves, and that's going to have to be the difference for the Mavericks, because you have all these superstars. You've got Luka, you got Kyrie, you've got Anthony Edwards. Those are like the 3 top-tier level superstars in this game, but it's going to come down to the front court, because just like we saw in Game 7, who was the catalyst, really, especially late in that game, for the Timberwolves to make that run? Naz Reid. Yeah. Naz Reid was incredible down the stretch. He completely rejuiced that team. I think, the Nuggets got it to a 2-point or 3-point game with 4 or 5 minutes left, and Naz Reid just absolutely took over on both ends of the floor. So you're looking at
Naz Reid's ability to even stop Nikola Jokic on the defensive side was crazy to me. Yeah,
he's starting big in this league, and it's annoying that the Wolves got him as an undrafted free agent way back when.
Yeah.
It's still the dumbest thing ever, isn't it? Like, he was a 5-star.
He's so good.
Goes to LSU, was good at LSU. Was 20 years coming out, was super productive. He tested well. It's just such politics that he was.
I think he had a little bit of the Will Wade stink on him. That big ass offer situation.
It's not fair.
I know.
That seems unfair to me.
Yeah. So overall, in my opinion, like, I don't see a way for Dallas to win the series unless those two guys play out of their mind the whole time, and I just don't think that they'll be able to compete in the front court with what Minnesota has to offer. So that's my opinion. I don't think this one goes. I think 6 max. I don't think we see anything past 6.
Wow.
So if you're reading the bottom left of the screen, it's not will Dallas beat the Wolves, it's can Dallas beat the Wolves. I would say I don't project them to. There's a reason that the Wolves are favored, and there's a reason the Wolves are going to have home court advantage, and that definitely works in their direction. I absolutely think the Mavs can beat the Wolves, though. I know you bring up that big mismatch, and I think it's a mismatch because you have 3 big bodies on one side and 2 on the other, but the styles of the 3 big bodies on one side and the 2 on the other are completely different. I think the 2 on the Mavs, they are energy bigs up and down the floor. They're going to try to beat you by pacing the hell out of you, by trying to beat up on you at least a tad bit, but they're big energy guys. Whereas on the other side, they're bruisers. Some of them can stretch out to the 3-point line. I think it's a mismatch in the Timberwolves' direction. But if Dallas gets into the pace that they want to get to, if they start speeding up a little bit at times, the Wolves, pace, I think that those bigs could be a lot more effective than you think. But also with the Mavs, I think the biggest X factor in the whole thing is just like you have 2 of probably the 5 most pure hoopers ever, or really in the NBA right now on one side of the whole thing here. And I think that Luka and Kyrie, there's just the ability sometimes to have spike games where they combine for 70 freaking points. And like, what do you do about that? I think they can. I'm not projecting that they will, but I think that the Mavs can actually keep up. And I do think that they have an improved defense to sort of, I think they could, certain games, bother Anthony Edwards a little bit, throw Derrick Jones Jr. on him. He's long, he's athletic, he can challenge him at the rim. He moves his feet really well. PJ Washington is another good perimeter defender. Kyrie,
Josh Green,
on his own, has done a really good job of defending other point guards. So, like, I just look at that Mavs team, and I think they've finally matched the scoring punch of Kyrie and Luka with some defensive players that can really get shit done.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I'll give one more point on it. Is you talk about having Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington that could potentially bother Anthony Edwards. So we've already given the front court advantage to Minnesota. I also give the ability to slow down a superstar player the edge to Minnesota because I think Anthony Edwards has a better shot of slowing down either Luka or Kyrie than anybody on Dallas has the ability to slow down Anthony Edwards.
Okay, I don't know if I agree with that, like on its like that argument on its just own laurels, because I just think, like, to be honest with you, Kyrie and Luka, when they're on, and I think you both can, like, and I think Ant's the same way, to be fair, but there's 2 on one side as opposed to 1.
Agreed.
Kyrie and Luka, when they're on, they are literally, I don't care if Michael Jordan came back, I don't care who is defending them, they're unguardable when they get in that mode.
I agree.
And if they can stay in that mode consistently throughout this series, the Dallas Mavericks can win this series.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Let's get to the next one. We're going to move over to NFL for a second. I have one I'm going to throw at you that we haven't talked about yet, but Bryce Young obviously was the number 1 pick in the 2023 draft. Had a bad year, his rookie year. Let's just be frank about it. He had a bad year. Coaching changes, multiple different coaching scheme or coaches that came in, scheming, play calling, all that kind of stuff. It has come out today. A report came out today. First day of voluntary camp. His new coach, the new Carolina Panthers coach, Dave Canales, said that basically Bryce Young is performing at a level with the new offense, with the new system that they put in place that has him excited. And this is the same guy, Dave Canales, who helped bring back, he helped Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith have career seasons when he played underneath him. Do y'all think this could be a bounce back year for Bryce Young? Do you expect that, or do we know we just have what we have with him?
No, I think Bryce Young is still 21, 22 years old, and he was a rookie whose number 1 weapon was a 33-year-old Adam Thielen, and he had no help outside of that. They drafted Jonathan Mingo in the 2nd round, which was a bit of a reach, and he just the big knock on Jonathan Mingo is he didn't have a route tree, and that showed up in spades last season. He just wasn't able to get any separation. So he literally had Adam Thielen to throw the ball to, and that was it. Also, terrible offensive line. He was the most sacked quarterback in the league. They could not run the ball with Miles Sanders or Chuba Hubbard. So I don't necessarily think they have the best repertoire of weapons this year, but I think Xavier Legette is an upgrade over Jonathan Mingo. I think Deontay Johnson is an upgrade over Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, and anybody else that was on that team last year. So I think they have at least a decent core of receivers, and they also signed 2 guards and Robert Hunt. Gabe, who else did they sign?
Robert Hunt and they didn't get Lloyd Cushenberry. Who was the other guy?
I was thinking Lloyd Cushenberry too, but I think he went.
It's another center that I'm not. I'll get it for you.
Yeah, get that pulled up. So they signed 2 guards to 2 of the biggest guard contracts in the league, which they desperately needed help up front. They still have
Damian Lewis.
Damian Lewis, thank you. They still have Ike Okonkwo, who we'll see what he does with some help next to him. He's still young.
I know, I get it. He has not been good. If you
he's not been good. He's not been good, but he's been surrounded by really bad players. So we'll see what this offseason does for Ike Okonkwo. And then they also bring in Jonathan Brooks from Texas, who was pretty much consensus the best running back in the draft. I agree with that. I think once he gets back from that ACL, he'll be able to help out Bryce Young a lot, and he has a lot more weaponry. This is a guy that had nothing last year, is still so young, and is going into year 2 with a guy who is known to bring quarterbacks back in Dave Canales, who resurrected Baker Mayfield's career and resurrected Geno Smith's career.
No real notes, to be honest with you. I just I look at his stats from last year: 2,800 yards passing, 11 TDs, 10 INTs. I think he has the ability this year, just with a little bit more help, to double those numbers up and make them look a whole lot better. Throw for 20 TD passes. He's going to have Deontay Johnson. He's going to have Xavier Legette. The offensive line, I think, when you talk about it on surface level, you say, oh, they signed 2 guards to $153 million worth of contracts, which personally, ridiculous allocation of funds for two interior offensive linemen for $153 million. It's a lot. But one thing about him that he struggled with last year, the interior of that offensive line was so awful. And how tall is he? He's 5'9".
Yeah.
You have to take the Drew Brees approach of having a really sturdy interior offensive line that can anchor really quickly against some of the bull rushes that they'll see throughout the season. And Bryce Young just last year got everything pressed back into his face by that offensive line every week, and he had no vision. He couldn't do anything behind him. I think now that they have Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, they'll sure that up, and he'll be able to be way more comfortable in the pocket, and I think that helps him. But it's just these little things have added up to probably twice or 3 times the chance for him to be successful in year 2. Because last year he had, I'm telling you,
nothing.
No good offensive linemen, no good wide receivers, no tight ends. Running backs can't do anything behind a shitty offensive line either. This year he's way more set up for success. Now, that being said, I think the Panthers will still be 2-15. I still think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL, but they'll be slightly better than last year.
Not if the Patriots have anything to say about it.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
All right, NFL.com put out an article today talking about the different division champs from this past season, and how they're going to be in trouble, basically. What ranking them from 1 to whatever number
8. There
is. 8. Thank you. Basically saying these rankings wise, this is the one that's going to struggle the most this year. Number 1 on the list, 1A and 1B, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. Christian, you all right, bro?
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, also to be fair too, NFC East has not had a repeat champion since
03.
04.
Yeah, 03 or 04.
So, and I think also with that, have you seen the Cowboys' strength of schedule versus the Eagles?
Yeah.
12-21. So,
oof.
It just feels like it might be the Eagles' year if you're reading through everything that happened this offseason.
Yep.
So you go all the way down to the very end. Obviously, Kansas City is ranked number 8. They think they're going to, as the division champs, Super Bowl winners, they're going to come back and be right there again. San Francisco, right above them. Detroit Lions, number 6. And the Houston Texans, number 5. Does any of that surprise you? You agree? You disagree? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to go to one you didn't name because 3-4 is Buffalo and Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore being at 4 may surprise some people, but I completely agree, and I think you can make an argument for them to be higher. I think you could flip them and the Bills. Yeah, I do too, because you look at this team that was so successful last year, doing what they always do with tweaks, obviously with Todd Monken coming over from Georgia. Now they get Derrick Henry. Wow, every casual fan in the world is, oh my gosh, the Ravens are going to be incredible this year. Well, they lost 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen.
Yeah, true.
And that's what this team is built around. I don't care what Todd Monken's system is. The bread and butter for this team is a John Harbaugh coach team is always going to be running the ball. And I'm not saying I don't think they'll be able to run the ball. I think they're just going to have some growing pains with having so many new guys in the lineup. Gabe, who all was it? John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, and Morgan Moses. They all lost last year. Both starting guards.
No, they did make a really good draft pick at right tackle. They brought in Roger Rosengarten from Washington, which I think he'll be pretty good, even though he was a 3rd-round pick. I think.
And I agree with that. But once again, it's a rookie. It's you don't know. You don't know exactly what that looks like. Defensively, they also lost some pieces. You have Patrick Queen staying in the division and going to Pittsburgh, and even outside of some of their losses, because they did have some big losses. Look at that division. It's the best division in football. I think you can. I could realistically sit here. I could realistically sit here and I can make an argument to you for every single one of those teams in that division to win the division. And I think I could convince you that any of those 4 teams could win the division. And I think you'd say, okay, that's fair.
I don't know if you could make. I mean, you could try to make the case for the Steelers. I wouldn't buy it.
I think they're the hardest one to make, but I still think there's an opportunity there for them to win the division.
Yeah, you. I think you said some good things, and I agree with most of it. The only thing I was going to say about the Ravens is that division's just terrible. It sucks. It's hard. The top 3 ranked schedules are all from the AFC North. Why? Because you play 6 divisional
each other
from the damn division from the AFC North. So that's the only reason I think it's almost like the NFC East to a certain extent, where it feels like you're bound to have a changing the guard year after year after year because everybody's seemingly good. Can I ask you this though?
Yeah.
Are you worried about the Bengals? I am. I'm worried about the Bengals. Joe Burrow has a wrist injury. He's coming off of a big injury. T. Higgins isn't happy. Trey Hendrickson isn't happy. I don't know, man. The Bengals freak me out. I could make more of a case for them to be last in that division than first.
I mean, there's the obvious reasons for why they could be first, and that's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. But you're right. T. Higgins, I think someone put out a report the other day that he was quote-unquote pissed off at the way that they were handling it, and that's fair. So you got T. Higgins who's upset. You got Trey Hendrickson, who's your star defensive end, who's upset. You got Joe Burrow coming off of a wrist injury, and even he himself has said that it was a very, very difficult injury to return from. It's a very I was reading about this the other day. It's a very rare injury, especially in football players. Like, it's not an injury that happens very often. So you have that. You lose Joe Mixon. You trade Joe Mixon to the Texans. So your running back, who's been a solid there for several years and helped just as much in the passing game as he has the running game, he's gone. So you're breaking in a new running back. Their offensive line has consistently been pretty shaky. I think they made some really – if there's another contingent point on how they could win the division, I think it may stem along that offensive line because I think they made some very good moves on the offensive line. But defensively, they're always hovering around that middle of the pack mark.
And they were really bad last year, though. They were bottom half.
Right. I mean, once you lose your quarterback and you can't score, then everything kind of
other
falls
teams
downhill.
getting extra possessions when who's their backup? Jake Browning?
Jake Browning
playing quarterback.
Played a little bit. Yeah, they had a few of them, but I think Lou Anarumo is a good defensive coordinator, but he's had them around the middle of the pack every year, and that's probably where they'll be. Everything hinges on how good is Joe Burrow coming back from this injury.
And then since we already brought up the point, the Bills were at 3 and the Ravens were at 4. I really think that should be switched because the Bills, they should be scared. They haven't done much this offseason. They should be worried about where they're headed. But I think Josh Allen is a tremendous talent at quarterback. I think he'll be able to have good production regardless of who's on the outside with him. He's going to have Keon Coleman in his rookie year. We'll see if Keon's okay. But I still think Josh Allen's going to keep that offense humming for the most part. Defensively, they're going to be fine. Sort of middle of the pack, maybe a little bit above, maybe top half.
I don't know. They lost a lot. Lost their secondary.
I get that. But I just look at the rest of that division. I think the Dolphins are in a bridge year where they're really going to try to compete 2 years from now. They're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with
defensively. They're not going to be good.
And defensively, they stink. And then I look at the Jets, and it's like, okay, unfortunately, I know that Aaron Rodgers had that long injury, and he was out the entire year after, the first 3 plays or whatever. In the end of the day, you're going to have to show me before you tell me.
Agreed. I agree with that.
So I still think that the Bills are going to finish first in that division. That's my projection as of right this second.
Yeah, I think they're the best bet just because they've been doing it and they have consistency at the quarterback position, which matters so much. But you give the Jets a middle of the road Aaron Rodgers, and they're probably winning that division. I mean, their defense is so incredible.
The O-line scares me in their first games against the 49ers on the road.
Yeah.
After he had the Achilles injury. That O-line is like 800 years old combined.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. A lot of that depends on Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith staying healthy. And but when one of them gets hurt, it's Olu
maybe
Fashanu.
less Morgan Moses and definitely Tyron Smith will miss time this year. I can guarantee.
Definitely not going to play the whole year.
He's not playing 17 games.
Absolutely not.
He can't do it anymore.
And
when he's great. Hurt,
when he gets hurt, is Olu Fashanu ready to step up and fill that role?
Right.
So there's more. I feel like there's maybe a little bit more question marks with the Jets and the Bills right now. The Bills are the safest bet. Highest upside though, I think, is the Jets in that division.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think the Bills can compete for a Super Bowl this year. I think if everything clicks right for the Jets, I think they can compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Bills sort of did their best Cowboys impression too this offseason. They kind of had to though. They were in salary cap hell. They had to
absolute hell. They let go of Mitch Morse, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White. Like they had to trim the fat big time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We appreciate you guys for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you are listening to this via podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, any other platform, you can do all the same things there. You can also head over to, if you've been watching the ticker, if you've been watching YouTube the whole time, bluffcitymedia.co. I know that thing freaking draws my eyes in every 10 seconds. You can head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out all of our articles, podcasts, and videos there. Once again, we appreciate you guys, and we will see y'all back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.